It may not always be the first game back after a long road trip that a team could have a hard time focusing, but the Panthers found a way after being down early and grinded it out for a shootout victory over the Flyers.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, November 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're to your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at @L_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase, and you could do that all on Game Time. So, Florida Panther fans, before we get started on today's edition of the show, I do want to say happy Veterans Day to everybody out there, and happy Remembrance Day for everyone who resides north of the border in Canada. Thankfully for myself, my grandfather is a veteran and is thankfully still around. And also everybody who served in the Marines, also happy 249th birthday to the Marine Corps. And thank you guys for everything that you do. But the Florida Panthers honored the military on Saturday night in their win against the Philadelphia Flyers, and will also do so once again for their game on Tuesday night against the New Jersey Devils. But let's get right into this recap for the Florida Panthers and their game against the Philadelphia Flyers, where the Philadelphia Flyers scored 5 minutes into this one, and the Florida Panthers really had to continue but getting their opportunities on Samuel Ersson, who we spoke about Samuel Ersson being a Panther killer over the last few years, as the Panthers last year lost the season series 2-1 against Philly. But even in the first period, I mean, the Florida Panthers having a hard time taking the eyes of Samuel Ersson away from them. And hey, the Florida Panthers, the odd man rushes, the breakaways. It felt like that Owen Tippett was getting his chances over and over and over again. Yeah, he eventually did in the shootout for the Philadelphia Flyers, but we can't be surprised when it comes to just the overall foot speed and the shot that he has in order to just continue to create there for the Flyers. And I'm thankful that he has been able to find his game all throughout these last few years with the Flyers. But overcoming an early deficit and then getting 2 goals off of defensemen, the first one being Nate Schmidt, who a poor breakout by Nate Schmidt on the first goal by Joe Farabee, but then also making it up for his rocket of a shot in the second period that went past the glove. No screen on Samuel Ersson, and also just not ready for that one. But also for this one, Evan Rodriguez once again continuing his tear, getting 2 primary assists, and mostly on how he's able to work the puck on the half wall and getting it back either on the top for Nate Schmidt on his goal, or even in the slot for Dmitry Kulikov's goal to make it 2-1 at the time for the Panthers. But also really for Evan Rodriguez and his ability to just create play and just create a little bit deception and also stop on a dime for him. And also off puck movement has really helped in this one for the Panthers, especially on the Kulikov goal, where puck gets down low. Scott Laughton tries to pick up Alexander Barkov in the slot. When it gets back to Dmitry Kulikov up top, and then he plays give and go back to Barkov, and then abandons Dmitry Kulikov right before that feed. And you see Kulikov just ready, winding it up to slap that one-timer past Ersson there for the Panthers to give them a 2-1 lead. But also Nico Mikkola has quietly once again gone up in the assist category for the Panthers there on the Sam Bennett goal, which was a really quick transition play for them, and the Panthers having numbers, and then Sam Bennett also getting that third goal of the game, his 9th of the season for him. But even the Panthers just continuing to still stick to their game and still going into the third period with a lead. We thought that possibly there could have been a little bit of a risk once the Philadelphia Flyers made it 3-3 at 9:47, which you love Alexander Barkov and that, and just creating as far as off puck of what he's able to do is skating around the zone and just creating that opportunity for Dmitry Kulikov. But not the best game for him. As even before the third goal for the Philadelphia Flyers, he commits a really a penalty that you like scratch your head a little bit for them. And then a little bit of a strange angle right before Garnet Hathaway got it on net, and then it bounces off Uvis Balinskis. That and the Nate Schmidt pair has were really responsible for most of the breakaways for the Panthers. And I didn't even mention the missed stoppage, the timeout that John Tortorella took, how long it took to review it. It was really reminiscent to their second round series against the Tampa Bay Lightning, where it was a really long review, but then they eventually reversed the goal. But this one, it was really lengthy, and this game took up to 3 hours. Usually NHL games last up to 2 hours and 45, but this one ended around 9 o'clock on Saturday night. So that contributed to how long this game lasted, along with the overtime, along with the 3-on-3, along with the shootout, you really really a lot of activity based on that. And also the fact that Florida, really great job as far as, even though they gave up that goal by Garnet Hathaway, when they were leading after 3, controlling the play. Usually the Panthers in the third period, usually they're more of trying to close it out, when trying to just get a little bit of winning their board battles, and then just slowly transitioning up the ice, and then just continue to roll their lines. But the Panthers really continuing to just get them deep, work on their forecheck, and also still creating their chances. And also the 3 goals against for the Panthers, all of them came in transition, and all of them started with the neutral zone. And we spoke about this plenty of times, especially in the Stanley Cup final, where the Panthers are at their best when they're in defensively, when they're allowing the other teams to get in the cycle, because of how they're able to just win their battles, use their long reach to disrupt something when it's a centering feed, and also for keeping them to the perimeter and their board battles and everything in between when it comes to how they play in their defensive zone. So that's really what stuck out, was their inability to defend in transition. And that's really how the Philadelphia Flyers were able to just continue to keep fighting. Even though the Panthers scored 2 in a row, they tied it two more times, and then the Panthers, no defenseman in the 3-on-3 for them. And Paul Maurice said even after the game, thank goodness the playoffs are not played at 3-on-3. Maybe I should have had a defenseman out there. And just the amount of breakaway chances that Sergei Bobrovsky was stopping, especially one on Owen Tippett, where he got the left leg out and just continued to just be that brick wall there. Eventually, the Panthers and them getting that shootout win, where Barkov scores a beautiful goal off of Forsberg, pulling the Forsberg move, and then Evan Rodriguez scoring the game winner right before Sergei Bobrovsky made the stop for the Panthers and getting them the 2 points. It wasn't the prettiest of 2 points, but the Panthers got it done. I mean, Steve Goldstein described it as a Picasso, not a Picasso, for them. But hey, 2 points in the bank, and separation season has continued for the Panthers. But we're going to continue that discussion on the other end of the break, where we're going to discuss more about no sense of panic, champions / perennial contenders finding a way, and also what this stretch means for as far as the NHL season is concerned. And also Nate Schmidt talking about what he's learning about a team's refusal to lose. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. And you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. The Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. And Prize Picks is the best place to get real money in sports action. You can join over 10 million users and sign up today. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win and receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And for now that Christian McCaffrey is back, do you think he can run for more than 75.5 yards? You think that Justin Jefferson will get 83.5 yards next week? You can do that all on Prize Picks. And you can download the app, use code LOCKEDONHL, and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, you could do that all on Prize Picks. Run your game. Also, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And Game Time is the best ticketing app in the ticketing industry. And also, the curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concert, comedy, theater, and more. The all-in pricing toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And the lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. The Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday, where the Florida Panthers once again grinded out a 4-3 shootout win over the Philadelphia Flyers. And I didn't even mention this in the first segment. The Florida Panthers once again brought their bathrobes as they entered the arena for their game. And it doesn't look like it's going to end soon. It looks like they're going to put it at an end once the streak ends for them. But 7 in a row, my goodness. And if the problems of giving away breakaway opportunities for them are coming from your third pair, then that's the definition of first world problems for what's going on with them continuing to contend for first place in the Atlantic, the Eastern Conference, and beyond for them. So that's one thing that there's not really things to pick at too much for that. And that's really that's harder for me to create content, but also we gotta still enjoy the journey for the regular season. Also, congratulations, Matthew Tkachuk, 600th game for him on Saturday. Bennett with his 300th point, and Sergei Bobrovsky for 403rd win, passing Grant Fuhr. Now he's at 12th all time among NHL goaltending ranks. Also, we didn't even mention Nico Mikkola, 6 assists in the last 7 games, doing it on both sides. Which one of the better plays that he made was when Scott Laughton was coming down the right wing, and then you see Nico Mikkola's reach for him and just not allowing any chance at a centering feed. And then there's another breakaway opportunity where Owen Tippett was coming down. And then Gustav Forsling, he was able to close the gap with how well he skates and preventing that. But it wasn't just Sergei Bobrovsky creating those stops for him. It was just defensemen, their ability to get back and also using their long reach for them. But no sense of panic for them once again, and just champions continuing to find a way to grind out wins. And I mean, if you're a fan of the NFL, you saw that with the Kansas City Chiefs just on Sunday, where it looks like the Denver Broncos were going to go down the field, use the clock for about 6 minutes, and then go for a game-winning field goal, and then it gets blocked at the very end. And also, friend of the show, Josh Appel, who works in the South Florida sports scene with 560 WQAM. He was on the call for that for Sports USA Live. Great call if you have an opportunity to go check that out for him. It's on his Twitter and Instagram page there. But also another perennial contender for the NFL, the Detroit Lions coming back from multiple scores in order to win on Sunday Night Football, which I unfortunately fell asleep before I saw before the comeback happened. But really, when you compare winning streaks or losing streaks throughout the season, I mean, right now this 7-game winning streak for the Panthers is 8.5% of your season. That's all. So put another NFL equivalent. Can't you tell it's game day for the Miami Dolphins? Why I'm talking about a little bit of football in this segment. 1.45 wins. This 7-game winning streak is equivalent to 1.45 wins in the NFL. So for the Panthers and this stretch of getting off to a great start, creating some separation, what for the Panthers and just ability to just wanting to continue to build for also getting the new guys acclimated. And really, Nate Schmidt was asked about the refusal to lose, and it really comes down to grinding it out on the opposition and continuing to just get in on their forecheck, and also what, like we spoke about, rolling the 4 lines, and also whenever you have a lead, for them, in order to take some time off the clock, not allow the chances against. I mean, I know in this one specifically, there was a lot of the breakaway opportunities for the Philadelphia Flyers, which also the Panthers were going into this matchup against Philly with a little bit of a lineup change, with bringing Jonah Gadjevich in and subbing out for Mackie Semiskevich, which also helped with the physical element of this game, which it's a John Tortorella team. And knowing that it's gonna be physical past the whistles, and that that on the other side it might not be the most talent rich for the Flyers, but that it's a team that's going to be playing hard once again, and also no Matvei Michkov for them, so that's a little bit of a bummer as far as hockey fans in general, getting who. Not only Panther fans who love the Panthers, but love the NHL in general. They missed their opportunity to see him in live action for the Flyers there. But really, sometimes in this part of the year, at the beginning, you ask yourself if these are the dog days of the season. I mean, yeah, we mentioned sometimes about January, February, but at the same time, the Panthers and coming into this and getting the 7 games in a row, and also in mixing that in with the travel and coming back, time zones, and along with health, you got to be quite pleased with what's going on here for the Panthers, and just the focus is continuing to just be there for this group. And Paul Maurice even spoke about how the biggest worry after a long road trip isn't always the first game back, it's the second game, because even Nick Fairbanks and myself were talking about this on Friday's show at the very end when we kind of previewed the game against the Flyers, is that this was an opportunity for it to be a trap game here. And for a team that's young, up and coming, trying to get out of the basement, which it looks like they're unfortunately going to be in that once again this year, it could be an opportunity for a team to get distracted, but no way did we see that there. And I'm not going to get into the whole, if the season ended today, they'll face blank. This is the time of year where you just have to worry about yourselves. And the fact that the Panthers haven't fallen behind, there's no hangover. You're not in a position right now where you're looking at, oh, if X team loses this, then they'll jump back in a spot. I mean, well, actually, truthfully, if they were back, if they were falling behind, I'd say still worry about yourselves, because I mean, we saw that in 2022-23 is I'm not gonna. I told myself I wasn't gonna get excited about the Panthers' playoff chances until they were back at 500, which had a hard time getting to, and knowing that January was kind of a sweet spot of them being less than double-digit points from the last team in. That was a matter of, then you worry about scoreboard watching, but the Panthers don't have to do any of that. So, and the fact that the other teams, they have a game in hand on Toronto, and the fact that they could even create more separation, even if they win that game in hand, that is absolute. That is the best start you could imagine for a defending Stanley Cup champion, for them. But also, I will be truthful. And as far as my thoughts, I do want this team to go through a little bit of adversity. It's great for them to win, but at the same time, you just want a little bit of, okay, if what is the big issue that's going on, for them to see what they could tweak. Because I mean, we did get a little bit of that, but later in the season, where Panthers were off to a great start in the early portions of March last season, and then the question was asked: Is the worst part about how hot you are, is knowing that it's March? We could apply the same thing here. Is the worst part about this is that it's November? So that thankfully for them, they get that opportunity to, that it's no longer a question of if, but when they make it. And the fact that their pace is still over 120 points, there's continuity for the most part. There might not be in the next few years, and that for them, it's eight out of the 9 top scores are once again here. So it's just a matter of taking advantage, and then new guys in the mix are as eager to be part of something special once again here. So just for you guys to get a little bit of a sense of how I'm feeling, we're spoiled right now at this point with the Panthers, and just continuing to get the points and then just move on to the next one. This game is behind them, and then you get to look forward to the next two, which is against the same team in the New Jersey Devils on Tuesday and Thursday. So, and crazy to think that even if they lose their next one, it's going to be just moving on and just on to the next. It's a journey. So let's enjoy the journey while it's here. But coming up in segment number 3, we're going to discuss more about the Hockey Hall of Fame class, and a little bit of the change to the CHL and NCAA relationship. We're going to discuss that more next on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And get ready to take on the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Third and final segment here on this Monday, November 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday. So the Hockey Hall of Fame had their class of 2024 with the official induction going tonight, but there's fan fest around there. The players got and the builders got their rings there. So a little bit of the class. Shea Weber, who's still under contract with Utah. Technically, it's 3 years after their last game, even if they're still under contract. Last game of him was Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning there. So always in the conversation for the Norris, despite never winning it in his 16-year career, and a Mark Messier award for leadership. Pavel Datsyuk, 4 Lady Byng trophies in a row during him, as that's the award for the most gentlemanly like player, from 4 in a row from 06 to 09, and also winning 2 Selkies in the middle in all of that. So great defensive play. You're not going to the penalty box, and just one of the overall good guys. Example of a 2 way forward there for his era, and also a Stanley Cup champion. Jeremy Roenick has been eligible since 2013, and it took a while, but 1,363 1,363 games played, and was never really the best player of his era, but longevity and playing 20 plus years really truly helped his chances. So congratulations on him getting in. And honestly, this is kind of how I feel about when Patrick Marleau does become eligible for the Hall of Fame. I don't think he will get in on the first ballot, but the streak of the Ironman streak that he had right before it was broken by Keith Yandel and Phil Kessel, that for him, longevity is really truly going to help him there for his chances of getting into the Hall of Fame. And still, no Alexander McGillney in, and will still be in the conversation, but a lot of off the ice issues based on how he treated the media and just everything else with that. I'll keep it there for when it comes to Alexander McGillney. But also, David Poyle, longtime GM of the Nashville Predators, right before Trotz succeeded him, and previously was with Washington, a slam dunk candidate for the Hall of Fame as a builder. And Colin Campbell, defenseman, played over 636 games, took over for Mike Keenan after the Rangers won the Stanley Cup, and also was on the selection committee for the Hall of Fame from 2005 to 2019, and went from playing with Messi and Gretzky to coaching them just years later. And he was the coach behind the bench when the New York Rangers defeated the Florida Panthers in 5 games in the 1997 season. But also, 2 ladies got into the Hockey Hall of Fame, Natalie Darwitz and Christy Wendell Pohl, teammates in the University of Minnesota from 2002 to 2005, both silver and bronze medals in the Olympics, and also 12 women's world championship medals for them. So congratulations to everybody involved on their induction to the Hockey Hall of Fame. But also, another thing that happened in the world of junior hockey and NCAA hockey is a new agreement between the CHL and the NCAA. So right before this agreement, if you were to go into junior hockey and get drafted at 16 years old, you couldn't. There wasn't really an agreement in place that you could go straight to the NCAA after, due to the fact of eligibility and also players' ability that they are getting paid there. And also, a lot of things have changed with name, image, and likeness. We've started to see that in multiple sports, but now with the whole agreement with the CHL and the NCAA, after a player is done with their time in the CHL, which is the Ontario Hockey League, QMJHL, and Western Hockey League, they're eligible to go to the NCAA if they want to. And now going along with the cash with them, they'll be able to still make something out of themselves. And also, the top end programs are going to be even more stacked. And also, the teams who might need a little bit more of the talent, there could be an opportunity for parity. It's still yet to be decided there. But then you think about recent players who signed their ELCs who went the college hockey route, and the example of Mackie Simiskevich and Spencer Knight. They're 2 Americans. They went to the US NTDP program, but if they decide to go to Canada and play in the CHL before this agreement, they wouldn't be able to play college hockey. And sometimes guys who are from Canada get their opportunity to play in the USHL and then go the college route from there. And that's honestly the league that's going to hurt the most based on that. And also the BCHL and the AJHL, where Cale Makar's from. Who came out of that program, at that league, excuse me. So also for the American players, it gives them the opportunity to go away for a little bit and then come back for them, which Matthew Tkachuk, he went to the OHL right before getting drafted by the Calgary Flames, but did not play NCAA hockey. And also, there's a little bit of this creates more of leverage for guys who are playing in the CHL and getting that opportunity if they do not want to sign right away their entry-level contracts as well there. Right now we saw 2 players under the Florida Panthers system as far as them being drafted and owning their draft rights in Grayson Sachin and Hunter St. Martin, two of the older guys who are towards the end of their tenure in junior hockey. they're able to sign their contracts while playing in the CHL. So, but if they were in college, they'd have to wait until the end of their season to sign their deal. So we saw that after with Spencer after the BC Eagles were eliminated in the second round. He signed his entry level deal, burned that year of his contract, and even played in the playoffs for the Panthers right before he went into the next season for them. A lot of players like to go that route. I mean, Mackie Simiskevich, he did not necessarily burn that first year of his ELC. He played on a PTO there for the Charlotte Checkers, and then they got the ball rolling with his contract. So a little bit of there's also some logistics that front offices are trying to navigate here. And I can tell you, front offices hate this. It's as far as trying to get players in. I mean, right now, they're going through, the Panthers at least are going through a little bit of it with Jack Devine, who there was discussion on him going back to Denver or signing his entry level deal. But at the same time, you're thinking about development path and your way of getting to the NHL, which if the Panthers lose their fair amount of free agents this season to go pending free agents elsewhere, that could also create a lane for Jack Devine to possibly have an easier path to the NHL. So that's another thing. I mean, we saw this recently with two top-rated prospects out from Rutger McGorty, who played at the University of Michigan right before forcing that trade from Winnipeg to Pittsburgh, and then Cutter Gauthier, who was drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers, played at Boston College, and then forced his way to out of Philadelphia because the Flyers management thought that he was not ready for the NHL and that he was going to be playing in Lehigh Valley for the AHL affiliate. And he said, I'm ready right now. I want to play. So gets traded, signs his deal with Anaheim, gets in at the end of the season last year, and now is playing his first full season with the Anaheim Ducks, where it's a lot of young talent over there and not a lot of veterans there. I mean, yeah, Radko Gudas, former Panther, is a captain over there, but still not a lot of veterans there to help those young guys through there. So that's a little bit of that where when it comes to the differences now with the NIL and everything that helps these kids. And also if they're over the age of 18 and they are playing and creating revenue for the school, I'm there. I'm so there for players getting their paychecks. So congratulations to the players on the ones coming in who are also going to get their opportunities to just focus on playing and don't have to worry about multiple hours of playing and then having a job and then going back into the books if they take the college route where you don't have a life. So thankfully for the players, they get to focus. And also this truly helps on just perfecting their craft. So this is a great step in the right direction for this new agreement between the CHL and the NCAA. But that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Tomorrow, we're going to preview the quick 2-game series between the Florida Panthers and the New Jersey Devils, as they will be playing 2 games in a row from Amerant Bank Arena. So make sure to come back tomorrow and as we will preview all that and more. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.